Mackenzie is an extraordinary individual whose journey is a testament to resilience and hard work. With a passion that ignites every project she undertakes, she consistently pushes the boundaries of innovation and creativity. Driven by an unwavering determination and a growth mindset, Mackenzie has turned obstacles into opportunities, showcasing what it truly means to be relentless in the pursuit of one's vision. But it doesn't stop there. Her altruistic spirit shines through in every endeavor as she strives not only for personal success, but also to uplift and empower others along the way. Get ready for a thought-provoking conversation that will challenge your mindset and inspire you to chase your own dreams with zeal.
Ooh, hell of an intro.
It's a great intro, right? You definitely deserve it all. So one thing that I've always admired with you on social media is that you've always been very upfront, very honest with your anxieties, the things that have held you down in the past. How did you initially decide to confront your social anxiety and push through that fear of putting yourself out there in the social media world?
Yeah, so, well, for those who don't know, speaking in really any capacity is my biggest fear. I never in a million years would have thought like I'd grow into the position I am now, posting to an audience every day, leading clients, leading a team, but I wouldn't have it any other way. But for the longest time, even now, I felt like I didn't really have anything worthy to say or provide. So sometimes I struggle to communicate, articulate myself because of my childhood upbringing, my personality, and being extremely introverted means that talking to people in any capacity is scary as hell. Like calls, Zoom meetings, in-person events, conversations, like recording videos, podcasts, it's all terrifying. But that's also why I do it, because I can't live my whole life scared to do these things and avoiding them. So I know all my dreams are on the other side of fear. So whenever I feel scared or uncomfortable about something, I immediately find how to force myself into it. And so that's exactly what I'm doing with this. Like anything, you just need to take it one small step at a time. Over the years, it started with just posting. Like in the beginning, like when I started on Twitter 4 or 5 years back, I was scared to just post random tweets, like because I'm like, what's the point? Is anyone going to listen, or does it matter? And then it progressed to taking phone calls, and then Zoom calls. Then I started recording videos of myself talking, and now I've been doing live calls in my group and just stuff like this. So it's just starting with one actionable step that scares you. You overcome it, and then you're on to the next. And it feels damn good to gain that confidence and overcome each one as it comes on. And it just feels like you're leveling up, kind of like in a video game. So I'm excited to get better at this and be able to document that process with this whole podcast and with you.
Yeah, and I was thinking about this. It's a form of change, right? It's personal growth. You're changing, and and for a lot of our clients, it's a huge change to the everyday stuff that they go through, right? When they come see us. So, how did fitness, just in general, how did fitness help you in dealing with social anxiety and building that confidence?
Ooh, yeah. Fitness is the gateway for building self confidence, belief. At least for me, it was. And I think for a lot of people, it's the case too. But I think a big piece is building your body. Of course, when you love how you look and you feel confident in yourself, that translates over into other areas of your life. But the mental confidence that comes from the gym is arguably more powerful, in my opinion. Because think about it, you're pushing past your own false beliefs with each rep. You are proving to yourself that you're stronger than you thought. You set and achieve new goals, push past challenges, you build discipline, consistency, self awareness. Like the list goes on. I could go on all day on that. But the mental benefits are the most powerful because it builds you to be the person you want to be, changes your body and your mind, and you begin to show up as a better person all the way around. And I think this applies in relationships, as a leader, as a teammate, spouse, friend, parent, anything in between.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before, but the gym is just an amazing place for that personal growth, right? And for building that confidence and knowing that everyone in there is dealing with something, and they're there to change, they're there to grow. And I think a lot of people initially, you kind of mentioned this, go in there for aesthetics, right? Like we want to change the way we look. But I think something you said was really powerful, that even more so than the way you look, you are going to change, but the mental aspect of it, how powerful that is.
Yeah, nailed it.
All right. So were there any key moments or, tipping points in your life that helped you kind of transition from being, really introverted, being fearful, to now where you're leading and coaching others?
I can't say if there was one key moment where the thing shifted for me. I feel like I've just been growing into that role each day for the last 4+ years. And even to this day, I'm still working on that and still growing into it. I feel like I'm far from where I want to be, but definitely have come a long way since the beginning. I think what got me into wanting to lead and coach others was just my whole transformation. Fitness quite literally saved my life. And I felt like I finally understood what my purpose was after going through all that. And I wanted to help other people experience the same thing I did, to be able to take control of not only their health, but start getting their life back. And I wanted to be that person I wish I had in those low moments, that beacon of hope and that mentor. So when I started, I didn't know it would evolve into this. But like I said, this is my purpose and my life's work now, to build something around this and continue to impact others who need it.
Yeah. So, taking on the adult responsibilities at a really young age, how did that shape your personality and shape your work ethic today?
Yeah, so we're getting deep with this one. I was given like bits and pieces of my story on social media, but I feel like this podcast gives us a good way to like dive deeper into that stuff. But my parents got divorced when I was in 6th or 7th grade, and that's when shit hit the fan. No disrespect to my parents. I appreciate them, all they've done for me. I know they were doing the best they could with what they had, but objectively, they were immature, couldn't handle things like adults. So I was forced to step up and be the adult from that point on. I had to communicate for them, look out for my younger brothers and my best interests, and kind of carry the burden of everything on my own. And because I was essentially taking on parental responsibilities, I never really got any support or a chance to ask for help. And even if I did, I was immediately shut down just due to the unhealthy family relationships. So I learned to stuff everything in, bottle up my feelings, be on my own, and become highly independent. But that's one thing I love about myself. I am highly independent. I don't wait or rely on anyone for anything. I hold the power to do what I want and figure things out on my own, which I love. But like anything, it has its downside. So that also means I struggle in a lot of other areas, relationships, accepting love, asking for help, getting any type of support from people. But those are, of course, things that I've worked on a lot and continue to work on.
Yeah, and I think people can really relate to that. Obviously, everyone's story is unique, but I feel like we all have something in our life or have had something in our life that's kind of weighed heavily on us and really affected, our personality or the way we do things in life. And so yeah, I think people can really relate to that. So let's talk about sports. So playing sports in childhood, how did that contribute to development of discipline and then develop your coping mechanisms?
One thing I am super grateful for is sports. I played sports throughout my childhood, and they really helped set the foundation for discipline and exercise, which carried over into my later years. It's funny, I used to be so pissed at my parents for this, but they always made me do a sport. Didn't give me the option to quit. Even times where I wanted to, I'm like, can I just not? Like, can I just go home, like, chill? But no, I always had to do something. If I wanted to do a different sport, that's fine. I could switch, but I always had to do a sport. So I did gymnastics for 8 years, volleyball for 4. I think sports are a great way for building good work ethic and discipline. So that's why I'm so grateful I had to do it at a young age. It ingrained that drive to push myself past my limits and compete with not only others, but with myself to get better, which then, of course, carried over into the gym and when I did get started in all that.
Yeah, and it's funny. I know I myself, I'll reflect on there's a lot of things in life that you go through at the time. You're like, I hate this, or why am I doing this, or why am I forced to do this? And then later on in your life, you're like, yeah, that was actually a really good thing that I had to go through, or I'm glad they did that. And it's tough to see that at the moment, but at the real time now, you're like, yeah, that really helped me out going through that.
Yeah, that delayed gratification. I mean, we have to practice that actively in our own lives, but sometimes, especially in the childhood, obviously, like we have no awareness of that. So it's really cool to look back on that and just kind of see how everything led you to where you are now.
Oh yeah, yeah. I actually love looking back and thinking about kind of like your journey of your life, and seeing all the things that you really wanted that did work out, or there's things you really wanted that didn't. You're like, oh, so glad that did not work out.
Yeah, and sometimes you can get deep with it too. Like, do you ever look at one experience you had or like where you are now and think about all the things that had to happen to get you there? Because sometimes I
Yes,
go down that rabbit hole and it's crazy.
yes. I cannot think of the name of it. There's a movie. I think Gwyneth Paltrow was in it. It was like Sidecar or something like that, and it was really neat because it took you through the movie, like her journey through life, and then there was like a scene where she gets off of the train, and then all these things happen, and then they go back and show you what her life would have been like had she not gone off the train.
Oh, that's
And so
interesting.
Yeah, it was really, really interesting because you got to see all these changes. It's so yeah. Going back to what you were saying, I do that a lot. I'll think about, man, what if this would happen? Or then you start making up your, like you said, the rabbit hole. You start making up your own thing. Like, oh yeah. All right. Okay. So, can you share any more about how you navigated through some of your darker periods of life?
Yeah, so going back to the family dynamic, kind of going from there after the divorce and everything, things got worse and worse. Emotional abuse became a regular occurrence, kind of sending me deeper into isolation. And then eventually the dynamic turned into physical violence. And so I won't get into too much details there, but basically, people were in the hospital in critical condition and awful ramifications coming downstream from that, including like a nasty custody court case with all sorts of lying, manipulation. I was pressured to testify. I was still fairly young at that time and kind of relived things over and over without any acknowledgement of what I had gone through. So family life was already broken leading up to that point, but afterwards it's just non-existent. Everyone pretended like nothing happened until basically I could just get out of there for college and be fully on my own. And I was just like, fuck it, I'm out of here. Naturally, everything that happened in those years kind of put me into a dark place. And I was already struggling with depression at that time. So that only added to it. And so there we have rock bottom. That's where I was. I hated myself both internally and externally. I was insecure about how I looked. I was starving myself to be skinny enough. I had an eating disorder. I couldn't sleep at all, for months at a time. When I was physically sick every day from anxiety. So like it was just in a bad place overall. Hated my thoughts, the person I had become. I was barely surviving. Just kind of like no point of living, no meaning. And there was many times, I have a very few like vivid times where I wanted to just like end it for good. So it was just not a good place. But in college, I then started using alcohol to numb the pain, drinking multiple times a week, getting blackout drunk every weekend, making reckless decisions. I was just trying to escape though. Like I didn't know what else to do at that point, and I was doing anything I could to get away from the pain and darkness I was feeling inside. But in comes the gym. That was my saving grace at that point. I had started going to the gym at the end of high school. I had zero knowledge whatsoever about like any machines, why lifting was important, literally anything. I just got into the gym and I was addicted to the feeling it gave me because it really did make a big difference on my mental health. And I noticed that almost immediately. And that's why I always arguably say it's more beneficial for mental health than it is physical. Obviously, like they both go hand in hand, but like, the mental benefits is what really set it apart for me. And because it was so powerful and gave me such relief, it kind of became my new coping mechanism, just like alcohol was. And I ended up taking it way too far, way too far. No exaggeration here. I trained like 2 to 4 hours a day, every single day for years straight without a rest day. I remember being like pissed every year that the gym was closed on Christmas because I had to like, do stuff at home or something. um, but yeah, not only that, but the workouts just had an insane amount of volume, like every exercise imaginable. It was crazy. To put in perspective, like a leg day started with 10 by 10 squats at 135, which was heavy for me at the time, followed by like 9 more exercises. Just it was wild. For anyone listening, never ever try that shit.
Oh, there's, I think sometimes too, that we will turn to something that is really good and really great. I say good, great, the gym, I don't want to say, oh, you're going to the gym, that's horrible. And we can even turn that into something that we can become addicted to, and it can become a negative thing. So that's, I'm sure we'll talk about this in the future, but, really finding that balance of, not being obsessed and addicted to even the good things. So, the gym, the gym is a savior here, right? So how did your relationship with fitness evolve from being that coping mechanism to just we were talking about being more of a balanced and healthy part of your life? Because you kind of went from like one extreme to the other, right?
Yeah. So at a certain point, I got fed up, kind of when I was at rock bottom. I got fed up, as most people do. And I think a lot of times your current pain needs to be more painful than the pain of change. And so that's exactly what happened. I was just pissed and fed up with feeling like shit every day and living this meaningless life. So one day I decided enough was enough and the switch needed to be flipped. It just kind of got to that point where it just like, I had enough. And I'm forever grateful for the one good person I had in my life at that time. He was very into self-improvement, had the right mindset, and somehow transferred that over to me as just a spark. He told me to listen to this podcast about fitness, and I didn't even know what a podcast was at that point. Like, I had never heard of a podcast. I had no idea what the concept was, but I started listening, absorbing the information, and it started to sink in. I started getting more into the gym and learning more just about how to work out properly, not doing the crazy shit that I was previously. I learned more about diet, which came with a lot of experimenting, like trying new program styles, implementing strategies that I heard about or researched on my own. And from there, my fitness journey, like, it started as a way to look better and want to be skinny for the approvals of other, but it quickly became, that sanctuary for mental health. So I train for aesthetics, of course, like we all do, but a lot of it is for my mental sanity. And now, fast forward to today, it's about balance, living life to the fullest, living the happiest, healthiest life possible. I was going because I was going way too hard, like, as we determined. A lot of work went into making it balanced and sustainable. And for me, I always say how I have to discipline myself to be less disciplined. And it's true. It's just how I'm wired. It's how I work. I go all in. I go as hard as possible. I love growing, improving, doing more, and pushing my limits. And one thing I didn't realize about myself until recently, until people had to point it out, is that I don't miss. So I have to be careful in how I approach that, because it's very easy to overdo it and go into those extremes, like with the alcohol, with the training. So even now, I'm in a big restoration phase, working on pulling back from training, balancing my hormones, reducing stress, and just finding more balance between work and play. So that's kind of my main focus now, and like finally found that happy medium. And that's also, of course, what we translate over into work with clients too.
Right. So we've talked a lot about the inside the gym and your training programs, but what about diet and nutrition? What role did nutrition play in improving your mental health? And I think the elimination diet, tell us a little bit more of that. How did that serve as a turning point for you?
Oh, yeah. It's a big one. I never paid attention to diet for my first couple years in the gym. I was just, going in, doing whatever I wanted, and I ate whatever I wanted in that process. I remember going to get ice cream protein shakes from the place across from my gym every single day. They knew me and my order by heart. Like, they saw me coming in, they had it made for me. But until I heard about an elimination diet on that same podcast I was listening to, that's when things changed. There were all these people talking about how it cured all sorts of like health or mental issues. I was intrigued. I wasn't sure how the hell food could do any of that, but let's be real, I didn't have anything else to lose at that point. So I figured I'll just try it and see what happens. And that was a turning point for me. The difference was night and day. I felt so good. I was like, this moment is so crazy. Like, I literally just got goosebumps now. Every time I think about it, like, I don't know, just, it's crazy. But I was driving to work. It was the most average day ever. I was just going to work, nothing new. And I felt happy, true happiness, for the first time since I could ever remember. No joke. And like I got goosebumps now. In that moment, I just broke down and started crying happy tears, because I didn't know that was even possible. So the shift in diet like really changed things for me. That's kind of what prompted me to, I guess, when I say like get my life back, because I was able to get off all my medications. I was taking SSRIs, anxiety meds, sleeping pills. So I like ditched all of those on my own, which, by the way, I don't recommend. There's a safe way to do it, but like I was just like, fuck it, like I'm going all in. And from there, I never looked back.
You had mentioned that peace that you felt in that car ride. Do you think it was kind of like you felt like there was a bunch of pieces going on in your life that were going well, but now it was like that puzzle piece, now you just connected it all and you felt like whole again?
I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know, honestly. I'm not sure how to answer that. Like, I think, yeah, maybe everything just like started to click in that moment, or I just like finally got back to like my true self after numbing myself and distracting myself for so long. Mm-hmm. That's a good question.
Yeah. Okay, so let's fast forward to your business, right? How did starting your business and building your personal brand contribute to your own personal growth and your own personal transformation?
Yeah, it's crazy looking back at it now. Kind of like we were just talking about, like all the events that led me to this moment right now. I met the right person who led me to the right resources, which led me to make all these changes. Like, it's just beautiful.
Yeah, I love stuff like that.
Yeah. From there, I started channeling my addictions and energy into getting better. So I was all in on self improvement and actually had the capacity now that my mental state was so much better. So I could actually like devote time and energy into that and other things. But it didn't happen all at once because, yeah, I had this huge transformation. But keep in mind, this happened over the course of years and years with lots of small steps forward and many backwards. So the progress was never linear. And progress is never linear in any pursuit.
Right.
I think it's easy in social media and just like seeing everything online that, oh, overnight success or everyone has made this incredible transformation, but they don't see like all the years and all the hard work and all the times that you fell back behind the scenes. But, I just kept stacking one piece at a time. I tried something new. If it didn't work, I ditch it, find another. This goes for the training, nutrition optimization, learning new skills. I got big into web development and coding for a little bit, interior design, graphic design, music. I started diving into all these different things, including like extensive meditation courses, journaling. That's something I've been doing for years and years, gratitude, breath work habits, all kinds of things and like tools over the years I've added to my arsenal and just kind of continue to grow and stack.
So you mentioned a lot of those tools you had. What were some of the most impactful methods or practices or tools that you used for self-awareness and kind of, I guess, rewriting some of your limiting beliefs from your childhood and all throughout your life?
Yeah, it's once you're aware of those limiting beliefs, it's so crazy to see how much they pop up. But I've done a lot of work on my relationship with myself and rewriting many of those limiting beliefs from my childhood. I did the inner work with like self-reflection through years of therapy. I think one of the biggest keys someone can build is self-awareness. I feel like the term like superpower is overused, but it really is a superpower and can quite literally open the
It is a
door to
superpower, yeah,
any goal
for
you want to
sure.
achieve. Yeah. So I think meditation and journaling are especially key in building that self awareness, and therapy is another, and like having that outside perspective and someone to kind of challenge you on that. But again, like these things take time, especially with the beliefs ingrained in you since childhood. I'm still rewriting those, particularly the most common one that comes up is I'm never good enough or not worthy. And it's fascinating how once you're aware of them, like they pop up all the time, even just in most random things. I was especially surprised to see it pop up in business pursuits, but hey, that's part of the fun. It's always a work in progress, and you're able to keep catching them when they pop up and squash it. And like the more you're aware of it, the easier it becomes and the more automatic it becomes. So you don't really have to think about it anymore. But I think journaling for sure has been the most impactful of all the ones and all the tools that I've done. And that's why it's been a daily practice for years now, maybe going on like 3, 4 years.
Yeah, and I think that self-reflection and being able to catch those everyday type of things, I think that's really difficult for all of us. And that's just a constant challenge that no matter where you are in life, you're probably always going to have to do that.
Yeah, it's something that never goes away. Just like any pursuit, though, like you never get to a point where you're like, yeah, I'm good. We made it. I can chill in fitness and business and anything. But becomes easier, and you have like more of the awareness, the tools in your tool belt to be able to combat it and kind of like attack those things.
Yeah, and I'm a big sports guy, so I like to relate things to sports, and anytime I've been on a team, like you have a big lead and you have teammates that are like, "Oh, we've won," game's over type of thing. It's like, no, we got to keep going. We got to keep pushing. We got to keep fighting. Give it all we have, the entire thing until it's officially over. So I totally agree with that.
Yeah, that's a good one.
All right, so you moved to Florida, and how does placing yourself in a new environment, an uncomfortable position, how does that contribute to your growth, your continued growth?
Yeah, we were talking about seeking out discomfort and forcing yourself into new challenges. Well, this move was a prime example of me doing this, but kind of on a big scale in my own life. I moved because I need to be uncomfortable. I need to put myself in a new environment to be able to grow and expand. And it was hard. Like I moved, it's almost been a full year, which has been crazy to think about,
Oh,
but it
wow.
took me a good 8 months to get somewhat settled and okay with things. So it took a good chunk, but it was so worth it. And it's funny how the smallest things become such a challenge when you're in an uncomfortable situation. Trying new places, navigating around, just seemingly insignificant things become so scary when you're out of your element.
Mhm.
And it was like that when I lived in Costa Rica too. I was terrified to leave my hostel, go to the store, find the bus stop, like all the things like that. But I had no other choice but to do it and figure it out. And same thing applies here. It may not be as extreme as that, but one big challenge and reason for this move was relationship. Because I mentioned earlier, that's something that I tend to struggle with just because of how I was raised. And I'm very introverted and do struggle with social anxiety. So I know I need to branch out and meet new people. And all the more reason to force myself somewhere where I didn't know anyone, had no connection. So I had no
Yeah.
other option than to build that structure and goals around this and kind of force myself to get out there more. And it's been hard, but really rewarding because, like I said earlier, every time you overcome a fear and do the hard thing, you gain more confidence and you can feel yourself leveling up. And the things that were once scary no longer are, and you can then tackle the next challenge. So, yeah, I'm really very happy with my decision to move to Florida, although I'm not there in this moment because of the hurricane, but I still love it. Don't regret a thing. And just very grateful every day that that's my life.
Yeah, and that's, you hear this all the time now. It's like people will say, choose your hard,
Yep.
and change can be extremely scary and challenging, but then not changing can also be kind of scary too, so. Okay, so let's talk about creating connections within your business. So how does building your business, how does that help you in creating connections and then combating feelings of loneliness?
Yeah, I think fitness and business are the two biggest, most important things in my life. I'm addicted to both. I love both. Lack of meaningful work is a major reason why I believe I was so depressed. Obviously, there's a whole number of things compounding, but I think that's the case for a lot of people as well. Humans need meaningful work, something bigger than them, something they're passionate about. And I found that when I started this brand. Now, granted, I didn't know what I was doing when I started this brand. I didn't know it was going to evolve into this, but since doing so, like it really transformed everything. I didn't know it was possible to build a brand online, but the same person who got me into the podcast also got me into posting on Twitter. So that's kind of how I started. I was doing it just for fun, just to share my journey, my experiences, my thoughts from what I learned over the years. And one thing kind of led to another, and I realized this could be something powerful. And of course, my knowledge and passion for fitness grew, and I knew it was my calling to then transition and help others make a similar transformation in their own lives. And being able to connect with people in a similar place that I was and being able to be the person I never had is amazing. Seeing clients transform mentally, physically is the best thing ever, as you know.
Oh
And
yeah.
I'm forever grateful like that this is where the journey has led me. And truthfully, my closest clients know this to some extent, but not fully. They support me as much as I support them.
Yeah.
I because I don't have anyone. I don't feel I have family at this point. I never really had any like long-term solid friends. I've been alone basically my whole life, and I can tell you with absolute certainty there's no worse pain than that. I think that's the biggest thing I'm struggling with at the moment too, to be honest. It's just the pain I can't describe, and it's so deep and it affects everything that you do. But being able to build this team like with you and with the clients has done more for me than anyone knows because I have no one else aside from you guys, like my clients and the people I've been able to connect with through this platform. So I'm just beyond grateful and blessed for that. It's been amazing.
Well, so tell us a little bit more about your experiences and how they've shaped you so that you connect and support your clients with their journeys.
I've found that although I'm not in the exact same position as many of my clients, like having families, working on fat loss, for example. But I understand having put yourself on the back burner. I understand feeling completely lost, unsure, or alone. And that's why I'm so big on meeting people where they're at in their own journey. Everyone's journey is so individualized, and we all need a different kind of plan and support for each of them. So that's why we approach things the way we do with our clients, as you know. But truly getting to know each person on a deep level to understand who they are and what they need at each stage in their journey, that's what would have changed everything for me if I had that early on. And I mean, hell, even now. But yeah, we meet people where they're at to build the perfect plan for them, for their lifestyle, and build a plan that's sustainable. So they not only get results, but more importantly, they can maintain them and continue build on it forever.
Yeah, and there are no two journeys that are identical, and there might be a lot of similarities. A lot of people are trying to lose weight, but still, their individual journey can be way different than that person next to them that has the same ultimate goal. So I
Yeah.
definitely think those experiences play a huge role in your success.
Yeah, definitely. And that's one thing that's cool too is when I get on calls with people and they just say like hey, I really resonated with XYZ part of your story. Or I really appreciate you sharing, what you've gone through. Cause it is nerve wracking to like share, even like the stuff I'm sharing today. I've gotten more comfortable with just like being very open and honest about everything. But sometimes you wonder, like, is this going to resonate, or is this even helpful, or like, what are people going to think? But hearing how much people can relate to that and like that they're in similar spots is like, part of the reason why I got into it. Cause I realized like, we're a lot more alike than we think, although the journeys are slightly different. Like people are going through very similar things. And so it's been good to be able to connect with them in that regard.
Oh yeah, how true is that? I think younger, naive me, would have or did. I'm not saying would have. I did tried to hide all that. Like I don't want people to see my imperfections. I don't want to see people or show people my weaknesses or anything like that. And then I got to the point where I realized that hey, people don't relate. They can't connect to someone who there is no imperfections in life. They want to see your challenges. What are you going through, and what your struggles are. So I definitely think people can relate to your journey.
That's such a good point. Yeah, especially in the world of social media, because all we see is the highlights. Like no
Yeah.
one really shares what they're going on, like what they're dealing with behind closed doors, and it's so easy to get caught up in everyone's life is perfect. Like, what am I doing wrong? Why am I failing? But we all go through it, and so that's even more reason when I get those messages from people. Like that's even more reason why I'm like, okay, I'm just going to continue to be open and just share what I have going on, because
Mhm.
it really does allow people to connect so much better as opposed to just being perfect, quote
Yeah,
unquote perfect.
yeah. And when I was younger, it was, you would compare yourself to those few people in your circle or within, right outside your circle. And now, I mean, social media, you have to, I mean, it's almost like unavoidable. You compare yourselves to hundreds and thousands of people who portray that amazing life, or amazing body or amazing, income, whatever it may be. And you're like,
Hmm.
wow, like, how do I compare to that? How do I get to that, type of thing? So
Yeah.
definitely a challenge for sure. So well, let's go back to balanced living. So what steps are you taking now to ensure that you are able to keep that balanced life between, because you got a lot going on. So between work, fitness, personal well-being, um, what are you doing to keep that balanced life together?
Well, we've seen from the trends in my story, I like to push hard and not take my foot off the gas, which
Yeah.
usually leads to overdoing things if I'm not careful. And same goes for work. I've fallen into that trap too. Recently, I've worked, for the last 3, 4 years, I've worked every day straight, haven't taken a full day off or a vacation, working like 60, 80-hour weeks. And in the process, I skipped out on all kinds of experiences and living for this, and it's taken a toll on me. Now, granted, like I love this, like I wouldn't change it for the world. Like I love doing this, which is why it's easy for me to cut up. But again, that balance is super important because all good things can, like, you can push it too far. So even after reaching burnout, I kept pushing harder, and more recently got into like a really bad place, having some health issues and scares, and ultimately just a wake up call, like something needs to change. And it is really hard when you find something you love, because I do really do love building this brand and like having impact and being able to work with everyone. But like I work with clients on, you can't pour from an empty cup. We all know this. You need to take care of yourself before anything else. So that's really been my newest target and intention over the last few months and years, just filling more of my cup, making sure I'm taking care of myself and doing things that normally I would have pushed aside, even just like having experiences. That's a big one that I've been intentional about, and all the reason like why I'm here in Colorado right now as we filming this, just having new experiences and not skipping out on life along the way, but using all these things I love, like fitness, like business, to help enhance my life, but not make sure that's not completely taking over my life.
Yeah, and I think one thing that a lot of people skip over is that first step, really needs to be that self-care, and everything needs to stem from that. And I think a lot of people just overlook that and, want to do all these other things, but that self-care, you got to take care of yourself first, and make sure that everything you're doing stems from that to really reach those goals and be successful in what you want to be.
Yeah, because especially with a lot of the people that I talk to, or just anyone that's very driven or cares about other people, like to a high level, is it's very easy to let ourselves go first. Like that's always the first thing that we drop is like, oh, I'll sacrifice sleep, I'll sacrifice my special time to be able to give to others or pour into the other areas I need to, whether that's like leading a team at work or like taking care of your family. Like it's so easy to put yourself last and put everyone else first, which is like a great thing to do. But like at the same time, we can't pour from an empty cup. So you need to make sure you're taken care of. So that way you can pour exponentially more into all the other things that matter in your life. And that's, part of the reason where fitness comes in is like, that helps you become the best version of you to be able to do all those other things and take care of your family and be a better leader at work, and whatever else life throws at you.
Yeah, and I think that's spot on. Like, you have to be the best version of you, to be able to, help others in life as well. So yeah, I think that's spot on. All right. So future goals. So what are your main goals moving forward, both personally and professionally? And how do you plan to achieve them while also maintaining that balanced lifestyle that you mentioned?
Yeah, I think the goals are always going to be evolving, but like mentioned earlier, I think my main goal is just living life. I cannot stop pushing and building. I got addicted to the gym. I'm addicted to this business and impacting others. That will never change. But I'm at that point again where I need to discipline myself to be less disciplined with work, and I can't let these things completely control my life, and I want to be able to like live life to the fullest. And another big goal is the relationships. I want to be able to build meaningful relationships, see the world, live in an inner state of peace. These are the things that matter most to me and will allow me to do better in this work with others. And yeah, I think that's my biggest focus point, like at least at the point of this recording. And it's going really well so far. It's looks like a lot of time at the beach, playing volleyball, joining all kinds of groups, learning new skills, taking trips, adventures, just like doing the things that I neglected for a long time. And like anything in life, I just set systems for it. I'm a big systems person. I love planning and organization and structure around that. And it's felt really good to find that better balance and feel more aligned with who I want to be and how I want to live my life. And I always tell clients, you work on yourself and your health to get more out of life. Fitness isn't supposed to just be your life. And I learned that lesson years back, but now I'm kind of relearning this again with work too. It's all a part of growing and evolving.
All right. So for anyone out there listening, what advice would you give to someone who is also struggling with social anxiety, or maybe just they're struggling with facing their fears, while also trying to build a meaningful, balanced life?
Could go so many ways with this, but I think the best place to start is just fucking start. Whatever the goal is, just start. We'll keep it simple like that. You'll never feel qualified. You'll never feel ready. You'll never have it all planned out. No matter how scary it is, just start anyways. And that being said, start with just one small step, no matter how seemingly insignificant it may feel. For me in the gym, my fitness journey started by listening to some random podcast. For business, it started by just posting my thoughts online. And for like overcoming this fear of speaking, it just started with tweeting online and then eventually evolving, like I explained earlier. Business and fitness are the two biggest things in my life, and for both I had zero clue what I was doing or like what was even possible when I started. But I did just start. I figured it out as I went, and I kept getting up when I got knocked down, because you will get knocked down as a part of the process. But that's really all you can do. And once you take that first step, the next one reveals itself, and more doors than you can imagine will begin to open from there.
Yeah. And, Mackenzie, I really appreciate you being so open. I know our audience is going to really enjoy listening to your story, and, everyone's got something that's going on in their life, whether they're fearful of it or some kind of change that they're wanting to go through. And like you said, the message is just get going, just start.
Just start. Yep.
Just start.
That's all you got to do. Well, yeah. Thanks, Lawrence. It's been fun diving into this. I'm excited to touch base with you next week and kind of dive into your story and your experiences as well.
Yeah, it's going to be fun. Looking forward to it.